The rain poured in sheets over the sprawling Montana ranch, turning the dirt paths into slippery streams and soaking the tall grass. Jackson, a wealthy rancher who had inherited his land and fortune but not companionship, drove slowly along the perimeter of his property. He had grown used to solitude, keeping people at arm's length, believing that wealth and success came at the cost of relationships. That afternoon, as lightning streaked across the sky, he noticed a figure crouched by a broken fence post. A young woman, drenched, mud splattered on her clothes, hammering away at the fence with determination that made Jackson stop in his tracks. He had seen workers before, but none like this, someone entirely alone and somehow fearless against the storm. He stepped out of his truck, boots sinking into the wet earth. "Hey," he called, "what are you doing out here?" The woman jumped, nearly dropping the hammer. I saw your fence was broken," she stammered, brushing her soaked hair out of her face. "I thought maybe I could help." Jackson's brow furrowed. "Who sent you?" "No one," she said quickly. "I just saw it." He studied her. Mud-caked jeans, torn boots, a jacket that had clearly seen better days. Her hands were raw and bleeding slightly from hammering. Something in her eyes, something defiant, vulnerable, and exhausted all at once, made Jackson pause. "You're crazy, you know that," he said finally, his voice a mix of exasperation and awe. "It's pouring rain out here and you're fixing my fence." She shrugged, barely able to keep herself upright against the wind. "Better than staying in the alley," she said quietly. "I needed work, food, somewhere dry." Jackson's heart tightened. Somewhere dry. The realization hit him like a bolt. She had been living on the streets, homeless, alone, and somehow she had found herself on his property, willing to work without pay just for shelter and safety. Without thinking, he gestured for her to follow him. "Come inside, you're soaked to the bone." Inside the ranch house, warm light and the scent of wood and leather welcomed them. He handed her a towel, and for a moment they just stood, dripping, staring at each other. "Name?" he asked. "Clara," she said softly. Jackson nodded. "Clara, you're going to stay, you're going to eat, you're going to get warm, and in the morning we'll figure out how you're going to pay me back or not." She blinked at him, unsure whether to trust this stranger. You don't even know me," she whispered. "I don't need to," he said, a rare smile flickering across his face. "You've got 2 hands, courage, and a spine. That's enough." The next morning, Jackson woke to find Clara already working again. This time, she was mending a gate near the livestock pen, humming softly despite the mud and rain still soaking the fields. He realized then that she wasn't just strong, she was relentless, resilient in a way few people were. Over the following weeks, Jackson watched her. She cleaned, repaired, cooked, and even helped tend the animals. Slowly, a bond formed, not just between employer and worker, but between 2 lonely souls. She learned the rhythms of the ranch, and he began to enjoy her company without even admitting it. One evening, while they were repairing a barn door together, Jackson saw the calluses on her hands, the bruises on her arms, the dirt under her nails, and he knew her story ran deeper than she'd ever share. "You've been through a lot, haven't you?" he asked quietly. Clara paused, hammer in midair, and looked at him. "I've had to survive," she said simply. "That's all anyone can do, isn't it?" He nodded, feeling an unfamiliar pull in his chest. For years, he had lived in isolation, believing that his fortune was his only companion. Now, watching her, seeing her determination and warmth, he understood that wealth meant nothing without someone to share it with, and Clara had become that person without even asking. By winter, she had a small room in the ranch house, her own bed, and the steady warmth of fire and food. Jackson still kept the ranch running, still handled the business, but he began to notice the laughter, the light that Clara brought to the place. She had come to him broken, alone and determined to survive, and in return she healed something inside him he hadn't even realized was hurting. One cold, snowy evening, as they worked side by side fixing a fence after a storm, she looked up at him and smiled, teeth bright against the wind. "I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't found this place," she said. Jackson, boots muddy, hands rough from labor, felt his chest tighten. "You wouldn't have had to survive alone," he said softly. "Not anymore. You're not alone, Clara." And in that moment, as rain turned to snow and the wind howled across the fields, Jackson realized something profound. She hadn't just fixed his fence, she had fixed the walls around his heart. No one had ever surprised him like this before. No one had ever earned his trust so quickly. And as Clara smiled at him again, brushing snow from her hair, he knew that life on the ranch would never be the same, not because of wealth, but because of the girl who had come, soaked and muddy, and had reminded him what it meant to care. She had been homeless, desperate, and broken. And yet, in fixing a fence in the rain, she had repaired more than wood and wire. She had mended a lonely man's soul.